everybody, welcome back to the channel. I know I say it a lot, but I haven't filmed and posted to the channel in a little while. I've been focused on getting the Evo here tuned. I haven't videoed pretty much any of it. I've just been super focused on trying to get it done and knocked out. But I have ran into an issue, or sort of kinda, of overboosting, and me and the tuner are trying to figure it out. So today he wants me to pull the wastegate off and see what wastegate springs I'm running. I can't even remember what I put in there initially, but I'm gonna pull that off today, and I'll show you how I have everything plumbed up. And if anybody's got any, input, let me know. I want to flip this camera around so everybody can see. All right, y'all. So this is how I have everything plumbed right now. You can see the wastegate's down here, and then I have the boost controller hiding underneath my blow-off valve. It's right there. It's a 3-port grimmspeed. Believe port 1's on the right, which is the one that you see right there. Port 2 is on the left side of that, and then port 3 is directly in the middle. I know according to grimmspeed's directions, it's supposed to be port 1 is vent to atmosphere, port 2 goes to the bottom wastegate, and then port 3 goes to a boost source, which for the boost source, I just run it off the J pipe coming out of the turbo. So I've been running it like that for a while, and then the tuner had asked me to change it up just last night, which I did, and that's why you see I got 2 lines running to my wastegate now. So the way he has me set it up now, I have port 1 going to the boost source, which again is the J pipe, and I have it going to, what is it, the bottom, I think it's the bottom of the wastegate, which would be this one right there. So I have it teed off of port 1, and then port 2 I have going to the top of the wastegate right there, and port 3 is just vent to atmosphere. So that's how I have it currently set up. Like I said, he wants me to pull that wastegate off and check what springs are in there. So I'll go ahead and take off my dump tube here, and we'll pull the wastegate off, and we'll pull the springs out and see what we got in there.
Give me all you've got, if you're prepared to break the silence. I'll be out in the sunshine, running beside the lions. I've been feeling down, but I've been looking up, afraid to fall. God, I've been so down, can you pick me up? Don't let me fall. Can you show me how to fix this mess? I am down and on my knees, and I may fall as I'm so close to the edge.
Alright, so just in case there's somebody out there who's never taken apart a wastegate, or in this case at least a Tial wastegate, this one in particular is an MVS. The MVR and the MVS are pretty much identical. I don't know about the F38s and all those. I've never had one of those, honestly. But it's very basic. It's a lot easier to take it apart than it is to put back together. Simply because when you put it back together, you gotta compress this so that the springs stay tight and then start the hex screws. But to take it apart, I normally just take I take all of the hex screws out except for 2. I leave them 2 in on the opposite sides. And then when I'm getting ready to take these 2 apart, I compress it as best I can against the floor, take them apart, and then slowly raise up on that so that way the springs don't shoot the top off. But again, very, very simple. Just take these puppies off. Wish I had a socket. I need to go invest in some more tools apparently. All right, so here's the last 2. I'll loosen them up a little bit at a time. And you have to be very careful with these because you can bend them. So just keep that in mind. You can see it's starting to separate there. Just get a little bit of the gap. So I'll loosen them just a smidge more, and then I'm gonna put pressure on, and it'll make it easier getting those out. So it's getting pretty close now. You can see how it's starting to put a little bit more on one side, but if you compress it, you feel that spring in there. So try to do it to where I can get both at the same time. It's just a little bit hard. You could probably use a C-clamp or something too, but you know, I like to be difficult. Thought that was done. It is. All right. That side's done. Let's work on this side. See how that one's starting to bend a little. That's what I don't want. This one is. All right, so slowly lift on that and it'll slowly separate. Just like that. And then there's that last bolt. All right, so it looks like I had a blue spring in there. And according to the chart, I actually have to go get it, but we'll figure out what PSI that blue spring is and then readjust if we have to. So let me get my good old documentation, which happens to be my iPad. All right, so if we're looking at the chart here, your MVS springs and your MVR springs they're all the same, so any of those springs you can use an MVR or an MVS. But as you can see here, the MVS doesn't have the blue in there for anything in particular, but the MVR does, and it says it is a 5.8 PSI spring. So, considering that my tuner said he wanted at least 10, I'm gonna throw over here, looking at this MVS spring pressure chart, I'm gonna put that red and green in there because I don't have these old springs. I purchased my wastegate just last year, so obviously I'm on the new spring chart. So I'm gonna put a red and green in there, and hopefully this resolves my issue with overboosting. Not sure though, because I think he said he was anticipating that it being too much spring pressure, and obviously we have just if we were running a blue, I mean only 5.8. I don't know. I'm gonna throw it in there, see what happens, and send him an email back, and well, actually we'll just take the car for a test drive and see if I'm still overboosting or not, because I think he has it the tune set to, he wanted it between, I think it was 25, 26 PSI. I'm trying to make 500 wheel horsepower, and he thinks that'll get me in the range I need to be. I was running 20, it was about 20 to 22 pretty consistently there for a little bit as he was dialing things in. And then when he upped it to try to get me where I want to be, that's when I started overboosting. Initially it was running up to like 30 PSI with how I had the wastegate initially set up. And then yesterday when I took it out after I made the change that he wanted me to make, it was hitting about 34 PSI. So we're gonna go ahead and drop these new springs in there, leave that blue one out, put that red and green in, and we'll see what happens. All right, guys. So I think I got a C-clamp to put this thing back together, so I'm gonna use that. And then I got a little stick here. I'm gonna put that on the top, and then this block of wood on the bottom, and clamp that together to hold it in place when I get those springs in there. Obviously I use the wood because I don't want to damage anything. This top piece is aluminum. Also, I noticed, I'm an idiot, I said that was a copper spring. It's actually black. That's my bad. So another thing to take note of, and I just thought about this after I started about to put this back together, make sure you pay attention to the orientation of the top half when you pull it apart, because you're going to want to put it back the same way if you already had your setup fit the way you want. Because if not, like mine was, it was like this, where this air was plugged down like that, and then my dump tube came down here and it sat like that, and I knew it fit that way. So when I took it apart, if I forgot which way it went and I had it over here, then I needed to plug something in here, I mean it's going to be all thrown off then. So you can just mark it, like I used a black permanent marker and marked it there. I did move mine twice, or 2 screws over, because my manifold was sitting like right here, and then I had that aluminum cap in there, and it felt better if I moved it away from all the heat. So I want to have both of my sources ran here and here, so it's going to be pointing more down on the side, so it ain't going to get so much heat now. But also another thing to keep in mind when you're putting this together is you want to be mindful of that diaphragm there for where that valve pushes up. I've even done it on when I had my 8th gen Civic. I had an MVR wastegate, and I pinched that diaphragm on there while I was tightening it down. You just want to be careful. So make sure it fits on easy. You can kind of feel it just slide in there. And then after you have it slid in there, like I said, use a C-clamp or something that does make it easier. I mean, I should have done that when I took it apart. I apologize, but yeah. So now I'm gonna throw everything back together again using that red and green spring, and see how it turns out. Alright, y'all, I was doing some research, and I feel like I gave you some false information, so I just want to clear it up real quick. And again, my information may still be wrong, but based on the charts, I noticed that a blue spring on the MVS is actually different than, actually I think it was a red one that I noticed was different spring pressure, and it was different than what was on the MVR and MVS. They were both different. So I actually have no clue what the blue spring pressure was unless I did some math, which I did here. So based on the MVS spring chart, we didn't know what a single blue was, but we did know the black and green. And according to the chart, the green, blue, and black gave you the 21.75. So just doing some simple math, I added the black and blue, or the green and black together, right here, and it gave you 1305. Then obviously subtract that 21.75 from the 1305, and that gave you 8.7. So the blue spring, according to the math, is an 8.7 spring. So I also had another one here. I mean, we knew the black was an 8.7, and then according to the chart, the black and the blue was a 17.40. So again, if you do the math, 8.7 plus 8.7 gives you 17.4. So that's what I'm basing it off of. So that blue spring most likely is an 8.7, as the same as that black one, which it has to be with how the actual coil is on there, that give them both the same spring pressure, and that way you can use them both together if you had to. But it makes sense mathematically, so I guess we're going with that. I just didn't want to put out false information. I was wrong, I apologize. And again, I may still be wrong, and if I am, I'm sorry, somebody correct me. But that's what I had figured out. So now I'll throw everything back together. I'm not using that blue spring anyways. I'm still going to use that red and green. But yeah, now we'll throw everything back together, and I'll take her for a ride and see what happens.
As I'm so close to the edge.
Alright y'all, I got everything hooked back up. This is what I meant by I re-angled that top portion of the wastegate there, because it was sitting way up here. So I like it better down there where it's away from all that heat. But that's what she looks like now. Pretty much no change, except for the springs in there. So let's go ahead and give her a start up here. Without being open, man, it sounds terrible. It's open. It sounds like metal rubbing on metal, but as soon as you give her some gas, she closes. Goes away. Kind of wild. Makes the car sound kind of terrible, but that's her. Alright, I'm gonna let her warm up and then we're gonna take her for a spin. So here's a short little pull here, I guess. It looks like it's still hitting over 35 to me, or 30 psi to me, but yeah, see, I got up to 35. Alright, y'all. So here's my run right here. This little section right here, you can see throttle position sensor is at 100. So that's my little third gear pull I did. And we're still in bad shape as far as what I wanted because we're over boosting. But I did not hit boost cut. But you see that that yellow line there, which is the Omni map sensor. So it went all the way up. I think it maxed out at 35. Yeah, 35.7. So I didn't hit boost cut, which is weird because I did hit boost cut on probably like 30 psi. But then again, I don't know exactly how all that stuff works. I just know how I have it set up right now with that spring pressure that's in there. I just hit 35 psi and no boost cut. Once I see it hit 35, I let off the throttle because I'm not trying to blow anything up. So I think it doesn't make sense anyways why I would put a 10 in there. And I mean, the tuner probably knows that, and I probably went too high with the spring anyways, considering he probably didn't know that that blue one was in there. So I probably need to go lower. So I might just try to either run that red spring or something like that, something that's under that 8.7 that I was running before, and see if that changes anything. So I'm gonna pull the car back in the shop and put a different lower spring in there instead of a 10, something below 8.7 like I said. So, and then we'll run her again and see what happens. Okay, so I installed that red spring in there, the single red spring, which is only supposed to be 5.8 psi spring pressure. I do obviously still have the boost control solenoid lines hooked up, so I'm sure wastegate duty cycle is in there doing something. So, but I'm still over boosting. I'm hitting about 28 psi, and I need to be around, I think he said he wants to get it to 24 or 25 or something like that. I did hit boost cut, like I said, with just the red spring at 28 psi, but strangely enough, I didn't hit boost cut with the red and green spring in there when I was at 34 psi. But then again, I don't know how boost cuts, how it works. So I don't know if it takes to a certain RPM and stuff like that. So I sent all the information to my tuner. I'll have to wait to hear back from him in order to continue. But for now, old girl's just gonna have to sit until he gets back with me. So I think it's gonna wrap it up for the day. So I'll see you guys next time.